Well, good Monday morning to you. Welcome to another edition of the Doctor's Nutrition Show. This is a special pre-recorded edition of the Doctor's Nutrition Show, so we won't be taking any phone calls today. But this is one that you'll probably want to pay attention to because it's frequently asked questions that the doctors get at the office there on Pass Road, well, south of Pass Road on Cal and Lorraine Road. So what we're going to be talking about the next 30 minutes are some of the most frequently asked questions that they have. And, we probably will answer a question that you might have in the back of your mind as well.
Yeah, this is stuff that literally every day we get these calls.
Yeah.
The same, I mean, the questions that we've got there for you, it's the stuff that we deal with every day.
And there's a lot more than what we're going to get to today, because of course that's all we do is answer questions all day. But we're just going to talk about some of the ones that we get over and over and over. So it's things that we know people want to know about.
Right.
And so that way we're going to talk a little bit about each thing, and that way you get more information on each subject.
Right.
Yep.
Exactly.
All right, and then of course, if there's any question that we don't cover, well, you can always email me sometime, jtaber@wlox.com, the initial jtaber@wlox.com, and we can use that for a future show.
Right.
But starting off, one of the most frequently asked questions, and I could probably ask this one from time to time, especially if I eat too much spicy food, what can I do for heartburn?
Yep.
Well, the problem is that these people that typically call with that question, it's not that they just eat spicy food occasionally. It's something they deal with every day, and that's the problem. And we're talking about some of them get some, fairly severe. Just the other day, I had one that had, they did a scope and they found okay, she's got a really inflamed esophagus. And we explained to her, the thing is the stomach and the intestines, they're designed to take the high acid environment, that your stomach has. It doesn't bother it. But when that fluid starts coming back up in that esophagus, you get the heartburn, and it really can damage that esophagus. So we get to ask that question daily.
Right, and for what you can do for it, for one, change the diet. Sugar does tend to make the problem worse.
Right,
Sugar does make reflux worse, and I've had people over the years that had done every medication on the market, they did every supplement on the market, they did everything they could do for everything.
Right.
And they still had it. And I said, well, okay, it's sugar. And they didn't want to stop it. Well, they finally did, and they didn't want to admit that it made it go away. So if you stop the high carbs, the high starches, the sugars, things like that. And, some people spicy foods bother, and some people it does not. Some people can eat all the spicy food they want, and it's not the problem. We do see a lot of people where sugar is the problem.
Yeah, and if they've got an inflammation set up anyhow, then the spicy food might bother you. But typically it's the sugar. And you talk to them about diet. I say, okay, take me through a day in the life of. And what'd you have for breakfast, lunch, whatever. Yeah. And they start out with, starchy carbs, sugar, starchy carbs. And I'm thinking okay, what happened to proteins and fats? Okay.
Yeah.
And sometimes I say, really? I don't get protein in that? No, a piece of bread does not have much protein in it. Okay.
Good hard-boiled egg.
Like I said,
exactly.
Good hard-boiled egg.
Exactly.
But another thing that tends to make reflux worse is packaged processed food.
Yes.
So the chemicals that you don't even know what they are and you're getting in a lot of your packaged processed food will also make digestion worse because, of course, it makes everything worse because it's not real food. So we always tell people.
Preservatives that they have in there.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Oh, crazy.
So,
if you pick up one of those packages of a TV dinners and stuff like that, look at the amount of sodium in there.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
But they have to use certain things to make it stay that way. So we do tell people go on a real food diet and lower, your carbs and sugar and, like I said, do real food. Lots of fruits, vegetables, nuts and seeds, lean meat, kind of.
And then we have digestive enzymes and other things you can take, like our GI essentials. If it's really inflamed, we'll do something like that. Try to heal that stomach and intestine.
Now, we've had GI essentials help when nothing else did in people because it actually helps heal the lining of the esophagus, the stomach, and the intestines. So it actually heals. And the GI essentials is something, it's a powder, and when you mix it up and you drink it on an empty stomach, it really soothes and heals the digestive tract. So that's one thing we use. But long term, one of the things that a lot of people need is digestive enzymes. Your digestive enzymes are what it takes to break down your food. And in many people with reflux, the problem is actually not that you have too much stomach acid, it's that you don't have enough in order to break down your food.
You see, that's common.
Right. So then the food sits in your stomach and rots. And that sounds gross, but that's what it does. It ferments, it bubbles, it produces acid. So it's that the rotting food that you don't digest produces acid. That's what tends to make acid reflux worse. So we use things to help digest where you don't have that happen. We have our Alzyme, which we've had for years, and then we just recently came out with a little bit stronger enzyme called Utmost enzymes. So the Utmost is a little bit stronger than Alzyme, so some people, you don't have to take it as many. A lot of times with Alzyme, you had to take 2 with each meal. Utmost, a lot of people can do 1 with each meal, although some people, you still can do 2 with each meal if you need to. So everybody's a little different. So there's definitely things we have for reflux. So, and everybody's a little different, so just come by and we can answer your question specifically.
Yeah. Wow, okay.
Yep.
Is it possible to reverse plaque in arteries?
Yes, it is. I think we've done a whole show on this before,
Yeah.
I think. But yes, you can. It's a process. It's not a magic pill. I always tell everybody, I wish that were true, but it's not a magic pill. It's a process, because it was a process that actually started that problem and developed that problem over time. Now, hopefully it took 20 or 30 years to develop all that plaque in the arteries. Hopefully it doesn't take that long to get it out. But you can reverse it. We've documented it multiple times with people clinically where we've actually reversed the plaque in the arteries. We use most of them we're looking at the carotid arteries because they're easy to image and get a good study on. And we've got many cases of that where we've actually put that process in place. Do you have to do certain things, certain nutrients, certain things? And nattokinase is a big part of it. You've heard us talk about natto a lot.
The two must, there's a lot of things that help, but the 2 must are the nattokinase or our natto advantage and the K2. And we either use our ADK2 or K2 500. So you have to have those 2 things, but then there's other factors that go along with it too. We always make sure we look at the lab work to see if homocysteine is elevated, we use methylcore. If the CRP is elevated, we'll use SPM. If there's a lot of things, the oxidized LDL, we'll use our new cell support, which is a really strong antioxidant. So there's a lot of things that you can do to help that plaque in the arteries, and we'll talk a little bit more about it when we come back from break.
All right, well, we're going to take a break, and this is a special pre-recorded edition of the Doctor's Nutrition Show that we recorded at an earlier date. So you unfortunately can't call in today. But anyway, we'll take a break. We'll be back with our second segment for this morning's Doctor's Nutrition Show. Well, welcome back to a special pre-recorded edition of the Doctor's Nutrition Show. We're talking about most frequently asked questions of the doctors, whether they call in or walk in and say, hey, I have this problem. Like you said, you hear that every day.
Every day.
We were talking about reversing plaque, and you're talking about natto and ADK2, which are 2 of the things that I take on a daily basis.
We've got so many people on that now because it is, like I say, it is a process. And the natto, and we use ours natto advantage, which has your nattokinase, but it also has the serrapeptidase, which is really good anti-inflammatory. And there's always inflammation involved in that plaque process, always. So it has that, and it has rutin. Now, rutin is a bioflavonoid specifically that's had a lot of research on it about how it helps heal the lining or intima or the lining of the arteries and veins. So that's kind of why we use that. And it's something that you can take long term, and there's really some great science on it. I'm constantly getting asked about the research on it, and if you call the office and give us your email, I'll be glad to send you some of the latest research where there's a Japanese study that showed that yes, that in its process really can do the job.
Right, and it talks about specifically how they've shown it does reverse plaque in the arteries. Now, a lot of people have been told that can't happen, but we've seen the opposite, and we know it can because we've used it for so many years. And so we really do get good results with that. Right. And, it's something, if you have a problem, try it. Now, you want to talk to us and make sure, what medications you're taking and make sure that you can take it.
Right.
And because some of the blood thinners, we got to be careful with the natto. Some you can take at low doses, so you just kind of have to, everybody's different. So just let us know.
Yeah.
All right. Next question. What do you have for energy?
You know,
That's a big one.
That's
everybody.
why is
That's
it
everybody
always-
that walks in the door.
Why is it during the summertime we seem to like we get drained? Of
Well, that's
because of
electrolytes.
the heat.
And the heat's and electrolytes. That's for sure.
Which in the summertime we specifically do a
Yeah.
lot of electrolytes. Make sure these people have good electrolytes because, well, let's face it, we live in South Mississippi. And if you live down here, you better learn how to sweat because people, people often, I get a lot of people.
For women, they learn how to glisten.
They glisten. But I get a lot of folks that move here from other places and they say, oh my God, you sweat. I've never sweat before. I said, well, gee, welcome to South Mississippi because, it's just part of life, you sweat and you lose electrolytes. But we get to ask that question probably every day, multiple
times a day.
Every day.
And when it comes to energy, it's different. I mean, there's so many things that can actually make you have lack of energy.
Yeah.
Like we just mentioned, electrolytes, that's one.
Yeah.
Thyroid issues is one, vitamin D deficiency, a B12 deficiency, an adrenal problem, anemias, iron deficiency. You start naming it and it can cause it. So in those people that are really tired, we always say you must do the lab work.
Yeah.
Because we check all those areas even on our lower panels. Now we do some higher panels where we get more into some of the cardiac risk that would look at reversing plaque and what you'd have to do for it and checking more things for that. But at least what we call our expanded panel does check, your CBC, it checks your liver, your kidneys, it checks the, cholesterol, it checks your vitamin D and your B12 and folate and iron. And it does do the thyroid, 4 different tests on thyroid. It does your adrenals. So it checks a lot. And it does your 3-month blood sugar average. Because I do see some people getting diabetes that's their symptom is they start getting tired. Because when you start getting diabetes and you start having the sugar damages. And sugar starts damaging the body. When you start damaging the body, you start getting tired.
You don't feel good.
Mm-hmm.
So,
no.
And that's the thing. So, but it is a question we get constantly.
Yeah.
And when you start asking the people about that question, you start asking, telling them about all the things it could be, they say, oh, geez, I didn't know it could be all that. They thought, well, maybe I just need some iron. I said, or maybe a cup of coffee. Because if you look, most things that have energy on them, if you go buy a bottle of something or whatever, and it says energy, you look at the ingredients, it's probably going to have caffeine. So if you try a cup of coffee, and if that doesn't do it, then okay, you got something else.
And you don't want to just go with a lot of the stimulants to actually get energy. You want to figure out the problem so you can do something about it.
Right.
Now, something that never hurts to take with energy is B complex.
Right.
I mean, that's not going to hurt you. And B vitamins are known to help with stress responses, known to help with energy, but it doesn't always fix the problem if there's other problems underlying.
Right.
So you really have to get to the root of the problem, and that's what we tell people every day. I mean, but I have some people on their main complaint on their sheet, they'll write, too old, too fat, too tired. I get that a lot. You wouldn't believe how many people, that's what they write.
Just those words.
Yeah.
A lot of
too
people
old, well, we got to make you feel not old, lose weight, and get more energy.
And a lot of people think, going through the day, I'm busy during the day and I get tired. They're going to pop a few energy drinks, and those are bad.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
Those are bad.
That's why we don't use a lot of the stimulant. We don't use the stimulants.
I've heard stories of people that drank too many of them in a day and have actually died.
Oh
Yeah.
Because of too much caffeine.
Stimulants can make your heart race, and it can make arrhythmias. It can make, especially people that already have arrhythmias, it can even make them worse.
Yeah.
So you definitely don't want to go the stimulant route. You want to figure out what the problem is and do something about the problem.
Exactly.
Yep.
All right.
Exactly.
Next question. What causes fatty liver, and is there anything I can do for it?
Yeah, most of those callers have been told by the primary care or somebody, it looks like you might be developing fatty liver. Okay, so then they call freaking out because I said, well, what did they tell you to do about it? Well, they told me to lose some weight. That's it, because there's really not a pill for it. It's not like, okay, if your cholesterol's a little high, we can give you a pill to lower your cholesterol. With the fatty liver situation, and by the way, it's the fastest growing chronic condition in America. Actually, in the world, they say, but America for sure. And it's one of those things that, really and truly, weight loss is usually the big issue. I mean, because typically speaking, these people are highly insulin resistant. They've developed that fatty liver. They've got high triglycerides, and that fat accumulates. It's made in the liver, and it accumulates there. And that's why we wind up. And then you can start having all the complications from that.
So the fatty liver, really, people think, oh, well, I got to stop fat. Well, that's not necessarily true.
That's not what causes it.
Really, the sugar and the carbs are a bigger part of it, because what happens is sugar and carbs is what elevates triglycerides. Triglycerides is the free fat in your blood, and it starts clogging up the liver.
Yeah.
Now, people tend to have high triglycerides when they're insulin resistant. So it definitely goes back to insulin resistance, and what causes insulin resistance? Sugar and carbohydrates. So when it comes to fatty liver, it is not the fat that's causing the problem, it's the sugar and the carbs, which is what a lot of people don't understand. And what we do for it that really does work well, for one, we change your diet and do a low glycemic diet, and we do have a sheet that we give you that tells you what to eat and what not to eat. There is a product called, we use one called, it's a tocotrienol, and it's a high strength tocotrienol. And tocotrienols have been shown to really benefit fatty liver. So has vitamin E, which are E-Plex. We use the tocotrienols first, and then, actually fish oil, which is a fat. That is actually really good for fatty liver because it helps lower the triglycerides. So there's a lot of things you can do for fatty liver.
Yeah, a lot.
Yes.
The omega-3.
And you don't want to wait until it gets too advanced to try to do something for it.
Right.
Start it early.
Right.
Yeah. All right. This is a special pre-recorded edition of the Doctor's Nutrition Show. We have one more segment coming up and our weekly special, so we'll be right back. And welcome back to our final segment of our special pre-recorded edition of the Doctor's Nutrition Show. Let's take a look at our special for the week. And it is?
It's our new B-Plex Plus. We've had B-Plex, which is a combination B complex, for a long time. We changed it and made it a much, much better and more potent product.
Right, and we also made it methylated.
Well, that was the key, is putting the methylated folate, the methylated B12. Those are the two biggies, and some others. But we changed it dramatically, made a much better product out of it.
And a lot of the B complexes that you get out there have a low amount of B12.
Right.
And this one actually has 500 micrograms of B12 per capsule. So it's actually a decent amount of B12 along with all your other B vitamins because they synergistically work together. And like we talked about earlier, B vitamins do help with energy. So, and it also helps control stress, which a lot of people's lack of energy is due to stress. And so it does help to take a B complex.
And there's no doubt we have a lot of stress today.
Exactly.
Just look around, right? Go to the grocery store and start shopping, yeah.
That's for sure. I know avocados went up.
Oh, everything's going up.
Yeah.
I mean, geez.
I think a week or two ago I paid 68 cents a piece for them. And I looked yesterday when I picked some up, they were $1.08. And it's like,
Yeah.
Really?
yeah.
Wow.
Another question. I've been told I might be insulin resistant. What do you do for that?
Okay, and we did get that one all the time too, because people, they'll mention, their primary care, or somebody will mention to them, it looks insulin resistant. Yeah, they typically are. Typically, they're going to have a little bit of the mid area fat. They're going to carry some things like that, and that's what we term now pre-diabetes. Pre-diabetes is when you have an A1C like 5.7% or greater. Actually, you might have a normal A1C, but if you have that high insulin response when you eat, and we always check that in our lab work. We check your fasting sugar and your fasting insulin and your A1C. That gives us a good look at, okay, when you eat, what does it take to control the sugar, and are you losing control? And when you start insulin resistance, you start losing control. How do we change it? Diet's a biggie. And then there's things like the berberine. We use a berberine max, which has some lipoic acid and stuff in it. Really, really, really phenomenal for helping that insulin resistance, because berberine's got some good research on how it helps insulin resistance. And we got some other things.
And controlling insulin resistance is one of the keys to weight loss.
Yes.
And that's probably, we didn't put that as one of the frequently asked questions, but it's probably one of the most frequently asked questions is, how do I lose weight?
Yeah.
Well, you can't lose weight without changing your diet. And even some of the things out there right now that people are doing to lose weight medically, some of the shots they're using, it's because it makes them not eat. I mean, it's really all about what you eat and how it affects the insulin. So insulin resistance does make weight gain, especially in the middle. And if you look around, people are heavier than ever. So with people being heavier than ever, insulin resistance is on the rise. This morning, just looking at lab work on what came back today, I had 2 that were 10 years old with already pre-diabetic. I mean, we're seeing
10 years old?
Yeah, we're seeing it younger and younger.
Wow.
So we are seeing,
That's a scary phenomenon.
Yeah.
we are seeing such young ages. So it's starting younger and younger. We're seeing insulin resistance in kids every day. And so it is something that you start early. You don't wait until there's more problem and until you are diabetic, until you do have fatty liver, till you do have all these other problems. So if you gain weight in the middle, that's one of the signs. And high blood pressure is another sign that you're getting insulin resistant. So high blood pressure and weight gain in the middle, if you have that, you need to start checking.
Yeah.
All right. Another question, what do you have for arthritis?
Ooh, okay, well, it depends on what kind, but at the same time, pretty much any of them, one thing that we use a lot for almost any arthritic condition is our Perna Max. Now, Perna is a shellfish. Perna has all 9 different classes of glucosamines in it, and it's got your 4 and 6 chondroitins. So it's got everything it needs to make the joint fluid, and it's got everything to help that structure around that joint maintain proper function. That's the first thing we start with. Been using it for almost 40 years.
And we see it a lot because they call your regular arthritis everybody's disease, because after a certain age, everybody's going to have a little bit.
Oh yeah.
So, and the more wear and tear you do on yourself when you're young, the more a lot of the athletes we see, they start way younger than the average person because they've been hit and banged up, and so you do see it even in the 30s and 40s, especially if somebody's actually been very active. So the thing with that is you don't want to hurt all the time, and it definitely helps. And Perna also doesn't just help the pain, it keeps down further degeneration, which keeping down further degeneration is one of the keys to keep it from getting worse.
Yeah.
What if you're allergic to shellfish?
If you're allergic to shellfish, we do have it that is from a vegetarian source. I don't think it works as well, so unless you're, allergic to it, I would do the Perna Max, but we do have something for that.
We do, yeah, we do.
Yes, we do.
Because we do run into those people.
And then we do have SPM, and SPM is special pro-resolving mediators, which actually help the inflammatory response. We always use it in the autoimmune arthritises because that's more of a systemic issue, and you want to stop the systemic inflammation. We have our regular SPM, which we're kind of out of right now, but we're going to have it back in next month. But we actually do have a vegan SPM for people that are vegetarian or people that have gout, because people that have gout, of course, they can't take Perna either if you have gout, because shellfish tend to aggravate gout.
Yeah.
And so we tend to use the vegan SPM. So we have a vegan SPM, we have regular SPM, and we have like 4 different brands right now of SPM since we are out. So that means we got plenty.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll squeeze in one last question here. What is an antioxidant?
Well, okay, first let's talk about what is an oxidant. Things that oxidize easily. Think about iron, for instance. Think about, now you can't say the bumper on your car because they don't put iron on the bumpers in the cars, but an old pickup truck, okay, maybe, that had a steel bumper on it, and it would rust. Iron oxide. Okay, so when you consume things like iron, and there's a lot of other things going on in our body that as they metabolize it, it produces an oxidized, which is basically looking for a free radical. In other words, this stuff has lost one of its electrons, so it's trying to find a new one. And that's where the antioxidants come in, because they supply that extra electron.
If you have too much oxidative stress, it can increase heart disease, it can increase cancer, it can increase a lot of problems.
Right.
So antioxidants lower the oxidation.
Right.
We have a really new product that we just cell support, which is really good for oxidation because it's a multi product where it has a lot of different things. It has your pomegranate and lycopene and broccoli and milk thistle and turmeric and all of it together for antioxidants. Yeah.
All right.
So that is a really good thing just for overall health for most people to take.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we thank you for being here with our special pre-recorded edition of the Doctor's Nutrition Show. You can find out a lot more information, of course, by going to doctorsnutrition.com, finding their Facebook page, or going to YouTube and subscribing to their little video y'all do every week.
Yep.
All right. Have a great week.
For more information on highlighting your business and services on Healthy Living South Mississippi, contact Jim Tabor at 896-1313.